paying, for paying and everything else. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of potential there for that.
Exactly. Fraud, waste, and abuse. It's a shame.
Well, the real hurt, the person that hurts the worst is the renter. I mean, they don't have any income, while these people are staying in their place there. So, but that's the thing about it. Look, it's what it does as the whole.
So sweet. She's about
It's all about media.
Exactly. Symbolism of the substance.
How it affects people.
Yes.
Do as I say now.
Exactly. They do a lot of it.
And so I was
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see y'all here this morning. Hope you enjoyed the nice, crisp,
Light frost.
light. Did we get a frost?
Yeah,
We
just
did
a little bit.
Okay. I don't know that we got one here, but,
My nephew flew out this morning, and so, I think clock 6:15, and so he just texted, how do you de-ice a plane in South Florida? Probably just pulls it out in the sun.
Oh, Preston has a little spray that you just spray on
Yeah.
in seconds.
well, it's interesting you say that. When I was working for Motorola, they sent me to Chicago, which is where corporate Motorola is. And we left Huntsville about 11:30, 12 o'clock, in noon. And on the way up there, you could see the snow line. And the captain came on and said, if you look out, you will see the snow line. And it's right on the Kentucky-Illinois border. And you can see everything all of a sudden is just dark, and then all of a sudden everything's white.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for that next 45 minutes, I noticed that white started showing up on the wings of the plane. And I'm beginning to wonder, because we was flying through the clouds, and the clouds, of course, are humid and wet, and ice started forming on those wings. Well, being a first-time flyer, that sort of got my attention. I really wasn't sure, is this thing going to catch some much ice? Because I've been told, wings get so loaded down with ice, it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
And so all of this is going through my mind. Little did I know that the plane has devices on the wings to keep the ice from forming automatically. See, I didn't know that, but when we got landed, of course, there were other planes already landed. They were full of ice, and they had men out there with hoses or whatever the solution is, foaming down the planes or whatever to get the ice off the wings so they could take off. So I felt a little better about that once I saw that happening, that they can get it off before you take off, and the wings themselves can keep it off when you're in the air. So I felt a little better about that, but I didn't begin with because I didn't know any of that stuff. But that was an interesting experience.
And I know Pat was not with you.
Pat was not with me. No. She was standing at the observation tower, waving at me as we took off. But
taking care of children.
I have reason for telling y'all that.
Two small
I
children.
don't know what it was that I was called.
Yeah, I was left behind.
But you're right, you don't have to do a whole lot down here, do you? We are on lesson 5. Please open your books to lesson 5. Give y'all a little something to look forward to. We will not be here next week. We will be probably at, is it Concord Street? Is that the name of the church? Concord Street in Orlando, Florida, this time next Sunday morning. We'll be in Orlando for a few days, and that's where we're going to worship when we go there. And I'm going to tell you, it's a wonderful congregation. If you ever take a trip to go see Mickey Mouse or in Orlando and it's church time, it's a great place to go. They're great folks. They run a satellite church there almost at the entrance of Disney. I think they closed it during COVID. I don't know if they've opened it back or not. But they do a lot of good work in the area, so it will be a good congregation to visit, and we enjoy our time when we get to go there.
That's what Jerry Whitmire used to be.
Is that
He was a
right?
preacher there, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, at the satellite church there at Disney, I don't remember what they call it now, but preachers get a benefit because the man who, they have it at a hotel, one of the conference rooms at a hotel. And if any of the preachers who will come there and preach for them on a Sunday, they get a week's free lodging in the motel for the time that they're at Disney. So I haven't ever done that, but I know folks that have. And so it's a benefit if you can put a sermon together and call yourself a preacher, go down there and they'll give you a week free stay while you're down there. So
We wouldn't try that.
y'all wouldn't try that?
No.
I hadn't either. I've met some pretty interesting people. And matter of fact, a couple of times the folks have been from close to our home in Alabama have been down there doing that, you know. And so it's a good thing for their families and everything. But well, lesson number 5, we had gotten into it a little bit. So we will start with lesson number 5 today. Steve, would you begin us with prayer, please?
Lord, thank you for this day that you've given us, Lord, and for the love that you have for us and for the strength you give us every day, Lord. Be with Farron as he ministers this lesson to us, Lord, and help us to have open minds and we may understand these things and that we might grow stronger in our faith. Be with us now. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. We talked a little bit about Daniel last week and how his devotional life was and how he did not allow the laws of his land to deter him from his life, his prayer life, and his relationship with God. And as a result, of course, we know that story. Because of it, he was thrown into the lion's den. And then when he survived that, that got everyone's attention after that. We have gotten down to the statement of reasons of having a devotional time is to fortify ourselves against temptation. Now, of course, we all face temptation, don't we? It is part of everyone's life. When we give our lives to the Lord, we know that the devil immediately goes to work on us. You know, those that are out in the world, those who have never obeyed the gospel, those who have no interest in God, Satan doesn't worry about them. He has them where he wants them. And but now us, we have announced devotion to God. So he is going to go to work on us. And so we need all of the help and all of the tools that we can find to help fight this battle with Satan. Because Satan also has weapons to use as he battles against us. For example, when you think about sin, what do you think about sin when you think about sin? What if you were faced with sin, how would it make you feel? And of course, we would always almost instantly say, well, I don't want to be part of sin, I'm going to stay away from sin, I'm going to hide from sin, I'm going to run from sin. And that's what we would normally say. Well, we don't want any part of it, right?
Right.
Right.
You say that.
We say that. But then, here comes sin, and it looks good.
Dressed in a beautiful outfit and it's tempting and.
Well, that's one sin that is exactly how it looks, yeah. It is going to be something that is appealing to us. And I always use this as an example, and y'all heard me say this before. And y'all, I'm sure a lot of y'all remember this commercial. They don't run it anymore, they have it for years. But this one stands out in my mind. Lowenbrow beer. You may have heard of that?
Yeah.
That's an old beer.
Yeah.
Been around for a long time. They used to run a commercial, Lowenbrow beer, with the motto, it doesn't get any better than this. And it shows a picture of a couple sitting in the sand on the beach, and then you hear the waves rushing toward the beach, you know, and they've got a fire going there. The fire is roaring. You hear the crackle of the flames, and it's right at sunset, and the sky is just absolutely beautiful, and everything is just lovely. And they hold up that can of beer. It don't get any better than this. What has sin just done?
Give you that thought, I need to try that.
Exactly. This is as good as it gets. And they put that image into your mind. And the saddest part about it is they do it when most everybody is watching the tube. It's always there during sporting events, during the football games, which is the highest TV watchable program that there is anywhere on the planet is football. In America, it's American football. That's where they're going to put that commercial, because that's where most people are going to see it. And some people are going to see that and they're going to go, wow, man, don't that look good. Let me tell you another thing, and this started in the 20s. What was his name? It's the silent comedy star.
Harold Lloyd,
No,
Buster Keaton.
no, his character. Charlie Chaplin, that's the thank you. You ever watch Charlie Chaplin show?
Right,
What is he always?
the Trent.
He's always drunk.
Oh,
He's a drunken tramp. Right, about right. And when you watch him, it is the funniest thing to watch him as he falls all over his face, as he does all these stupid things because he's so drunk, he don't know which direction to walk in, he don't know what to do next. And of course, he's not talking because it's a silent, because this was back in the 20s. But he paints a picture, and you just laugh, and you think this is just wonderful. And you think in yourself, well, I'd like to do that. It happens. Today's TV and movie industry is no different. They make things look so good. They make you think you can fly like Superman. They make you think you can look like Wonder Woman. They make you think you can do all these great things. And you want to do it. You want to try it. That's sin. It looks good. It is appealing to the eye. You know, that's what James said sin is. It's what? Sin of the eyes, sin of the flesh, sin of the mind. That's the three things. You know, that's the three things that Satan presented to Eve. It looked like it was pleasant. It was pleasant to the eye. It was good for food. It looked like it might be something to make one wise. That's the very same three things he used against her.
Well, and Satan had to make it appealing,
Yeah.
or nobody would do it, and he is the father of deceit and lies.
Okay. Now, and you're right, that's exactly what he did. But you know, the fact of the matter is, he takes things that would normally appeal to people to begin with. Like, let's say the fruit, okay? I have to tell you, when I see a pretty red apple, it makes me want an apple. Okay? When I see Niagara Groves peach cobbler, I want some peach cobbler. That's just how it works, you know. Things that are appealing to us naturally, and that it's presented to us to make us want it that much more. Okay? That's what sin does. That's what sin does. And it's not just with fruit, it's with anything in life. It may be something as ugly as a little piece of green paper. It's about this size. What am I talking about? Money. This money is, you know, it has been determined that money is one of the dirtiest, filthiest things you can put in your hands. Coins and bills. Because it has been in every hand in America. And you're handling that, and I think to myself, oh, give me a bill. You know, we do that, don't we? And Satan sees to it that that old ugly piece of paper is beautiful. And will do anything that we possibly can to get it. And some people will do anything they possibly can to get it. That's what sin is. That's what sin does. It makes it look good. It makes it pleasant. It'll also make you think you're doing something smart. It'll make you think that you're getting ahead. You know, a thief is so proud of himself and his cleverness when he steals. He has done something remarkable. Someone who figures out how to go into a bank and break into the vault and walk out of there with thousands of dollars. He is very clever. He is very intelligent, and he has done something that he is very proud of. Anybody ever seen the movie National Treasure? Y'all seen National Treasure?
Yeah.
Any of you? Man, it was smart folks to do what them folks did. To go and steal the U.S. Constitution out of the Library of Congress? Yeah,
Right.
that was smart.
That was a movie too.
Well, but you know, yeah, but you know, anything that can be secured can be unsecured.
Yeah.
Who would have thought last year that thousands of people could have broke into the White House and just ravaged the place?
Right.
Who thought that could have happened? It happened. Okay? And there wasn't a thing anybody could do about it to stop it. That's what I'm saying. Anything that can be done, very well will be done. You know, that's what I'm saying.
It controls Congress.
Pardon?
Well, I was just saying, it could be that they were told, that security was told to stand down, but that's another
Well,
story.
you know,
But because of
any-
who was running half of
any
the
good
Congress.
Democrat's gonna tell you that. We
Yeah.
can even get into all that. But it could happen. Things can happen. That's what I'm saying.
But
Some things you just can't stop from happening.
There's another mob on January 20th too, that they don't report either.
Well, anyway,
See what you started?
it all comes under the umbrella of sin. Anything can happen, okay? Sin can make anybody want anything, desire it, and make action to go after it. That's the point. So, we have to put as many barricades as we can between us and Satan. And one of the things that is a tremendous help is for us to develop our mind and our heart with a relationship with God. And that will actually help us as a barricade with sin. Because, you know, when you develop Christianity in your life, you develop one thing, you may not even be aware that you're doing it. You're developing conscience. Anybody know what a conscience is? Anybody have one?
What?
I hope a conscience.
Yeah.
I hope we do.
Yeah.
Do you know, y'all all seen the cartoons where you have the little devil on one side, the little angel on the other, trying to tell the cartoon character what to do? That's your conscience working there. A Christian conscience will deter sin. Because number one, it's going to make you understand guilt if you fall to it. So it is a way for us to build an attitude within our lives that we don't really need this. We don't really want this. We need to stay away from this. And if you have developed your conscience correctly, it will do that for you. That's just like with Daniel and going back and thinking about him. You know, it would have been really easy for Daniel to say, okay, I won't pray. Darius already looked favorably upon Daniel to begin with. He liked Daniel. He wanted Daniel in his entourage. So Daniel could have he could have gotten ahead, couldn't he? If he'd went along with this law and let Darius see him going along with this law as the king, he could really fix Daniel good. But Daniel had developed his heart for God, and he would not commit the sin. Joseph, dealing with Potiphar's wife. How did he deal with Potiphar's wife? He got away from that situation. And you know, that's the answer. When I did youth work, first thing I tell my kids in class, the best way out of a situation is never put yourself in it. Because we put ourselves where we want to be, don't we? We choose what situations we want to be in. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that we can't help. We still have to act correctly in it. But in many situations, we put ourselves there. We think, well, this is not going to hurt. I'm not going to get involved. But we put ourselves there.
Our own worst enemies.
Sometimes we are our own worst enemies. That is very true. Okay. John John 2, verse 16, all that is in the world, and this is talking about the lustful world, the world of Satan. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, it is not of the Father, it is of the world. And who is the father of the world?
Satan.
Satan. Yeah, Satan.
Father of lies.
So we need to build the kind of life that will help us to ward off these things. No matter how pretty they are, or how good it might taste, or how good it might look, or how it will make us look to other people. And that's another thing we have to worry about, is what other people think of us. There's going to be a lot of people going to be denied entrance into heaven because they've spent this life worried about what other people thought about them. You know, they have to make me look rich. In their eyes, I need to look wealthy. In their eyes, I need to look powerful. In their eyes, I need to look important. And they'll do everything they can to be like that. And they'll be denied heaven because they didn't humble themselves before God. So that's another thing we need to be careful about. Questions, comments? All right. Well, let's do the questions to challenge. In what way can I build a close relationship with God? How can we do that? Is it possible?
Praying and studying the word.
Praying and studying, okay. And following through with living what you study. Yeah. Okay. My answer was through love and obedience, which is basically the same thing. Would you say, and this is speculation now, would you say that Adam and Eve probably had a good relationship with God?
In the beginning,
I think they did too. The Bible doesn't tell us about their relationship with God. We do know that Eve understood to leave the fruit alone, don't we? Because that's exactly what she told Satan. You know, we're to leave it alone. And I think she was prepared to leave it alone until he enticed her by making it look so good and so fitting for her to do it. Are we commanded to draw near to God?
yes,
Absolutely. And again,
draw
Many
near to him
reasons.
and he will draw near to us.
many reasons for that. Number one, we have to draw near to God to obey Him. And we have to draw near to God to live for Him. So it is a commandment for us to do. Should it be a natural desire for us to be close to God? It should. Now, we need to understand that being close to God is something that develops in one's life. When you first learned about God, you probably weren't that close to Him. As you begin to understand God and what God is to mankind, that's when you begin to learn to appreciate God. When you learn what God has done for you and is doing for you daily, then you learn to really appreciate God and learn to love God. When you become a Christian, you have reached the point where you're ready to devote yourself to God. But you know, you're not at the end of the journey. When you become a child of God, so many people think, well, that's the end of the journey. No, it's not. It's just the beginning. Because at the time you become a Christian, your faith is as weak as it ever. It is something that must grow. It is something that must develop. Your love for God must develop. Who fell in love with their wife the first time you laid eyes on her? Always exception to the rule. I know the story, so
Move on.
And I asked that one time before, and you raised your hand to that. Yeah. Some people, there is what's the term?
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
Yeah.
You know, I was too scared to have love at first sight when I met Pat, because I knew she was coming, and I know she was coming. They were setting me up with her, and I was scared to death. You know, but she was nice, and it took me maybe a couple of weeks before I said, "Yep, she's it." It took a little while. Y'all don't believe that, do you?
Yep.
I tell you, it is something that develops. Do you love your spouse today more than you did when you married her? Now, you know, when you get married, I mean, all the emotions are flowing and they're bubbling and you're just so excited about this whole thing. But you know, you love her less than you've ever loved her any time in your life. If you've done it right, because it is a growing thing. Okay?
Was she like a gnat, kept pestering you till you come around?
Oh, that hadn't ended yet.
Oh,
She still pesters me like a man. But you know, I don't do this anymore. Oh. What I'm getting at, we develop our relationships. World, earthly relationships and our heavenly relationships. It is because the day you stop growing, what happens? You die.
begin to die.
You die. Okay. What must we do to draw near to God? I've got 4 passages of scripture that will help us find the answer to that. Colossians 3, verses 5 through 17, we won't read it. Basically, what all this is Paul is saying, put away the filth of the world. That's all it is. Now, can the filth of the world be pleasurable? Yes, it can. Can it be exciting? Yes, it can. But will it bring you close to God? No, it won't. Romans 12, 9 through 21. Again, Paul is basically saying, behave like a Christian. Did either one of your parents ever tell you to remember who you are? You ever did that? Who are you? What reminds us of who we are? As Christians, the Word reminds us who we are. We belong to God. We need to behave like we belong to God. Philippians 4, 4 through 13. Paul says here, rejoice in the Lord and simply meditate upon the things that are good. Sometimes that's not easy to do when you see that pretty beach out there and the waves rushing into the shore and you see that beautiful sunset and the fire going, you hear the crackling of the flames and you're holding up that can of beer. And that looks so good, don't it? Sometimes we have a hard time meditating on the fact this is not really all that good. And then James 1, verse 24. This was a good one. Don't forget what you was before Christ. Now, if you go to James, he will tell you what you were before Christ. Paul tells us what we were before Christ. What were we before Christ?
Lost sinners.
Lost sinners. Simple as that. We need to remember, you know, I think it was Isaiah that said, I was nothing more than filthy rags. As lost sinners, we were nothing more than filthy rags. But then he goes on to say, but we was justified, we was redeemed, we was washed in the blood of the Lamb. And this is what we are now. And when we start thinking about the way it was, we need to remember what it was. You know, what gets me, the old Charlie Chaplin movies, they didn't show the parts where the character was laying on the streets, just completely knocked out from the booze he'd been drinking. You know, it don't show the dirt and the filth of what that beautiful beach scene looked like after everybody had been sozzled out of their gourd. They don't show that part. They just show the part that looks good. They don't tell you about the headache from a hangover. I don't know if any of you ever had a hangover. I haven't. I don't know what that's like. My granddaddy, my step-granddaddy, who was an alcoholic, he would get up on Monday morning, and I'm going to tell you, that old man was in pain, major pain, because of what he had done over the weekend. You know, they don't tell you that part. They don't want you to know that part because that's not going to sell their product and that's not going to get you to go along with it. We don't need to forget what we was. Yes, sir.
I was until she turned that shower on me.
The shower, hit you with a hot and cold, okay?
No, I was in the tub. I had a headache until that shower come on.
Okay. No hot coffee to follow that?
No, that cold water brought it out.
What questions could you ask that would help you profit from the reading of the scriptures?
Will this not make me more knowledgeable of my life towards Him?
Okay. Could Daniel have had a godly life without a devotional life? Can we have a godly life without a devotional life? You know, we think about coming here, our worship. And yes, we are commanded to worship God. We are commanded to reverence God. We are commanded to honor God. We are commanded to give Him all the reverence and all the glory for who He is. But you know, there is a flip side for the purpose of worship. We come to worship for all of these things, but have you ever stopped to think that by worshiping God, we're getting something out of this as well? Because when we come together, good chance we're not thinking about what's going on out there. We're not thinking about what we could be doing out there. We think about the fact that we are together, we are God's children, we have the same mind, we have the same opportunity, we have the same goal, we have the same salvation. And that gives us a benefit that people who are outside of these walls don't have. So it's a two-sided coin on this. We reverence and glorify God, and we benefit ourselves. How can a devotional life help me to overcome temptation?
Knowing what sin will do to me.
Okay. That's probably the biggest one. You know, I had a preacher years ago make a statement. If you don't come to Christ for any other reason, come to Christ as an insurance policy. You ever heard that before? Yeah. Not sure I'll go along with that. If you're going to obey God for no other reason, it'll keep you out of hell. Well, I worry about the folk who uses that terminology and that thinking. Because why do we come to God? Because we love Him. Because we want to be near Him. Now, yeah, nobody wants to go to hell, and that plays an important part of where we spend eternity. And that's not where we want to spend eternity, so yes, we want to do the things to keep us out of there. But that should not be the reason we want to be a Christian, just to keep from going to hell. We should want to be a Christian because we love God and we want to be where He is in our lives.
Having the devotion, being devoted to God, makes you strong enough to resist the devil and flee from those temptations.
It will strengthen you, no doubt. Y'all have heard me preach about prayer life. Having a prayer life will help you stay away from worldly things. Number one, it's going to make you aware of what the world can do to you, what it does do to you, and help you to remain free of that. It will also give you a relationship that will bring you peace and calmness. Because anytime that if you pray correctly, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel good about your relationship with God when you finish. It's going to give you a peace that you have never had before. If you do it right. If you have that prayer life. Devotional life can definitely help us overcome temptations. Will it cease it? No, it won't. Because there's not anyone here who has not sinned. There is no one in here who will not sin again. But it will strengthen you to help you make right decisions. Questions, comments on this lesson? Well, the next lesson really kind of tells us how to build that relationship. And we're not going to try to get into lesson 6 today because we've only got about 3 minutes. But this lesson is going to help us do what lesson 5 has told us we need to do. How do you build a good relationship? And you can parallel that with how you build relationships in this life. Because we have all built relationships. We build relationships starting, really, we start at birth, don't we? Our first relationship is with who? Our parents, yeah. We build a strong relationship and our siblings, you know. Sometimes you wonder about sibling relationships, because they do like to fight like cats and dogs, don't they? My two did.
They're in competition.
They were in competition. I don't know if I've told y'all this story or not. Mandy was 2. Well, she was 2 years and a month old when Philip was born. And she loved the idea of having, we knew Philip was going to be a boy, and she loved the idea of having a little brother. It was the most wonderful thing, and when Philip was born, we dressed her up in a little her little dress so she could go to the hospital and see her little brother. We got her a little wagon and put a teddy bear in the wagon. She goes going down the hall of the hospital, pulling that wagon with the teddy bear, and everybody thought, oh, he's so cute, you know. And she was so excited about seeing her little brother. And oh, he was just so cute, and all he done was cry. But he was so cute. And we got him home, and she thought it was cute. We set her down and let her hold him in her hands, and she thought that was the greatest thing, and all he'd do was cry. And for days, he cried. And she couldn't get her mama's attention because she was always dealing with Philip because he was always crying. And one day she comes up to me and she gets up in my lap and she says, Daddy, take it back.
Send it back.
Send it back. So I don't know that sibling love was developing then or not. I don't know. Right now, you try to separate them and watch what fight you have on your hands. Yeah, it has grown. Yeah. We're going to learn how to build relationships like that next week. I hope. Does anybody have any questions on what we talked about? I have a quick question. Have you heard anything from this series so far that you didn't know before? I hope not. Because this whole series is a refresher for us for basic Christianity. And the whole purpose of it is to get us to understand that we have to have our feet planted before we can grow and do anything else as children of God. So this series of lessons is to help us plant our feet and keep them firmly planted. Did I see your hand go up?
Yeah, look at Daniel 9 and 23, and it was said of him, what do we get out of 9 and 23?
Yeah. At the beginning of your supplications, the command went out, and I have come to tell you, for you are greatly beloved. Therefore, consider the master and understand the vision.
Is it the phrase, for you are greatly beloved?
Okay, the original passage is Daniel 6 and verse 10. I think what this is making reference of, as I said earlier, King Darius was very favorable toward Daniel.
Right.
He gave Daniel a very powerful position in his government. And he was reminding Daniel of this. And that's why he needs to follow along with this law. Because Darius can't change the law. The way the laws are written, when the king makes the command, it's there.
Right.
And he can't change it. So I think what this is saying, you need to remember how I think about you and remember how well you have it now before you break this law. I think that's what this is actually saying.
Well, that would be for you are greatly beloved.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.